Yeah, that was 17 minutes, and now we're right back at it, so we don't lose traction with
Oh,
what happened
jeez.
last
Okay.
episode. Uh,
Welcome back.
yes, So I've actually researched this because I was curious about it. A lot of gay people are more neurodivergent than other not gay people,
Hmm.
which could mean it could mean anything. But one of the things it could mean is just that it it proves one that it's possible that the people being gay and trans is like a psychological change
Hmm.
of some sort and not more so like a I guess a biological in some way. But also what it could mean is that because neurotypical people usually have a harder time connecting with things, right? Is
Yeah,
that right?
yeah. Yeah, I would say, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if being and I'm not this is not for everyone. This is just me saying things out loud. Um, but I think it could be possible that neurotypical people would join the LGBTQ community
Uh,
because
Hang
then
on.
it would what's going on?
I don't want to interrupt. Are you meaning neurotypical or are you meaning neurodivergent?
What's the difference?
Neurotypical would be somebody who doesn't have ADHD or anything like that. Neurodivergent would be different,
Oh,
divergent. So
oh,
like they
that
would
makes
have
sense.
ADHD, they would have one of those things,
Yeah,
or ADD or anything.
I meant neurodivergence.
Okay, continue. Sorry.
No, no, I had I didn't know those two were different things, so
Okay.
that's a big me bad.
That's it's always innocent. I don't know. Just continue.
All right. But neurodivergent people might gravitate more towards changing their sexuality or their gender because it would give them like a group to be part of where they can kind of relate to their trauma they've had. And I'm not saying this is everyone, and I'm not even saying this is necessarily true. This is just a theory about people that I have because I do that. I talk about different types of people, mainly gay people because I'm not gay.
Uh,
But I think the topic's interesting because it's not a new thing. It's just a only more recently studied thing.
mm,
Um, and I'm really into psychology as well.
yeah, yeah.
And
It's yeah.
gay things are gay things are a psychological. Being gay and trans, I don't care who you are. It's a psychological thing. All right.
Mm,
It is purely psychological. Like,
um. Mm,
go on.
no, sorry. I don't mean to continuously interrupt. It's my bad. I'm trying to. I'm just thinking at the same time. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. Um, because like, I mean, there's no really. I don't really have any real evidence, I guess you could say, to back it up.
Mm,
But it's a psychological change. It's not a physical change.
yeah. No, I definitely. I feel it. It's interesting to think about just how different people are and what it could possibly change and affect. I mean, it's also like it's obvious with what you're saying, but it's important to note that it's not like it's all neurodivergent people are queer and it's not all neurotypical people are straight. And so it's obvious that it's not just that as a factor, which is even more interesting just to figure out like how this all works and why people are the way we are.
Yeah, and it's the only reason I even bring up that more neurotypical people are gay and straight is because like there's also a rise in just neurotypical people in general, as well as gay people. You know,
Neurodivergent, yes.
neurodivergent. I mean, and it could be because there's more awareness of it, or it just could be because there's a change in brain chemistry as like us as a species is evolving.
Yeah.
Because like if let's say like caveman, right? When you're a caveman, you have to be perfectly like able to survive, right? And if you're a neurodivergent caveman, you can't. It's gonna be a lot harder for you to survive. You know, like if you're an ADHD with, or whoa, if you're a caveman with ADHD, it's gonna be harder for you to like focus on like finding food, right? Just
Yeah,
as an
okay.
example, and then like
Yeah,
you'll
yeah,
die, and then that like ADHD isn't a gene thing, right?
yeah. I do not think so.
What
But I
causes
can look.
ADHD?
I will look. Hang on.
Because I might be making connections to a different theory I have, and if I am, I won't talk about what I was going to talk about because I'd just be wrong.
Uh, uh, okay, let's see. ADHD can run in the family. Studies indicate that genes play a role. So your genes do play a role in whether or not you'll get ADHD, or the likelihood. But so can like other things, and like it can sometimes be like stressors during when the mother is pregnant or stuff like that, or different factors like that.
Okay.
But it's
Yeah.
not always, and it's just sometimes it's just how it is.
Okay. Well, I guess it still kind of relates then. But like in days where survival was harder, neurodivergent people would be a lot less likely to like survive, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so now in the current society where they're able to just kind of like live on, which is a good thing, but also it allows for more neurodivergent people to like pass on their genes and make more neurodivergent people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably going to be
Yeah.
a point where just everyone is some sort of neurodivergent, and then it just becomes of how severe it becomes.
I think, yeah, no, I could definitely be it. I think it's interesting because a lot of like you said like neurodivergent. I'm gonna go back to what you said before and then bring it back into this. But you had mentioned neurodivergent people would be like harder to communicate, which can definitely be true. But something that's interesting is like I was thinking last night when I was laying in bed thinking about my job. I was like, I hope that there's a lot of I hope that there's a lot of okay, this sounds bad now that I think about it. I'm gonna say it out loud. But I was thinking I hope there's a lot of neurodivergent and LGBT people where I'm planning on working, because it's a lot more fun and easy to talk with people who are along either of those lines. At least for me, because they're like oftentimes people who are neurodivergent are more honest and straightforward and will just like be how they are and are very like relatable and fun, which could say something about me. But and like same thing with LGBT people. And it's interesting because it brings up like some studies where neurotypical people and neurodivergent people struggle to communicate with each other because of how neurotypical people will kind of put on a show of how they're supposed to be and like keep up how they're supposed to be, which is like right and it's productive or whatever, or right in quotes. Um, and then neurodivergent people are not able to follow that exact role the same way, but it means that they're able to more honestly communicate with each other. So neurotypical people it's easier for them to communicate with each other, and neurodivergent people are able to communicate with each other easier. So there isn't a problem with communication on either parts. It's just getting people of different sides to communicate is hard, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, and I'm like, I'm one of the neurotypical people. I assume I'm neurotypical, I guess. I've never taken a test. But, like, I find it, like, I'm the complete opposite. I cannot communicate at all very well with, or it might not even be I can't communicate. I just get uncomfortable, I guess, because they, neurotypical, or divergent, sorry, and LGBTQ people always tend to be more extroverted, and that's what usually gets me. Like what for what you were saying with the honesty, right? Like, and I'm a very honest person, you know. But the thing that gets me is that they tend to overshare stuff that I don't want to know about, you know.
Right, right.
Like,
But
and
like,
it ties into like trauma, right? How they'll easily talk about trauma. What they'll do
yeah,
is they'll talk to me about trauma I did not ask about.
yeah,
Like, I'll just be
no,
like, "Oh, I like your shoes." I'm like, "Thanks. My abusive mom gave them to me for my Christmas last year." I'm just like,
yeah.
"Oh, okay." And then
It's-
suddenly I don't want to talk to them anymore.
I mean, yeah, and that's the thing too. But like, it's interesting. Somebody sharing, like, oversharing about themselves. That's what I want. Like, for me, from my perspective, if somebody were to not go further into detail or share me deeper parts about themselves, I know you want to know deeper parts about somebody regardless. It's just like deeper parts of like why they are, or their trauma, or what sad or happy thoughts are tied with things. Like, that's what I want, like a riveting conversation to have. And so I don't know what that's about me, but like for somebody who is more, I am more of a people person in the sense that I enjoy talking with people a little more than you, or extroverted. I don't know if I'm more extroverted, but I don't know. It's I should take a test. But it is interesting to see. It's just the differentials of communicating, and I wonder if you had mentioned that we're slowly like evolving into more ADHD or ADD or anything along those lines. Um, if that's happening, I wonder if a reason that could be happening is that humans, and especially Americans, are so focused on like our image of ourselves, and we're very much so like look perfect, find this perfect role. You know, the American dream is to constantly have more and put yourself in more of a strong position. And like if everyone slowly became more neurodivergent or ADHD, anything along those lines, it would slowly like break the bounds of like that, and people could relate to each other more.
Yeah, I mean, how future society would be with like mainly neurodivergent people is an interesting idea. Um, but yeah, I think it's interesting
I
what
think
society might look like.
I think it sounds like fun.
I mean, you can think however you think it'll be.
I mean, I will. Oh man, it's so. We're gonna one day we're gonna have a. I don't know. I mean, you can always say no, but one day we'll have an episode where it's Landry and Andrew go get tested for ADHD. All right,
Uh,
and we're gonna we're gonna find out, and it would be really surprising if you had ADHD.
I don't think I have ADHD. I
I
find it
know. That's
very
why I'm
easy.
saying it'd be surprising.
I think if I were to have some sort of neurodivergency, it would be a form of autism.
Yeah, that's fair.
Cause um, like not. I don't want to say I hyperfixate on things, but like I can get really into very specific topics,
Hmm.
and like I I don't know. I don't think I'm. If I am neurodivergent, I'm not a very serious one. I also could just be a very weird person because I am a very weird person.
Hmm.
But it would also be interesting if I was some sort of neurodivergency yet I have a hard time relating and talking to other neurodivergent people.
Mm.
Um, oops.
Which I mean, not to say that that means you definitely do, but there's plenty of people who will probably still struggle with talking with other neurodivergent people, even though they are neurodivergent.
Yeah. And like I get kind of backtracking a little bit, right? But like with liking to know more about other people, you know, and wanting to learn about their traumas, I completely understand that. Like I like also like I said earlier, I'm a psychologically excited person. I guess is a word for it, but
Yeah,
we'll go
yeah.
with that, I guess. But like I enjoy talking to other people about like their problems and then figuring out like why it happened and what future work can be done on it or whatever, you know.
Right.
But the
Right.
thing is that like with me for some reason, and maybe it's always different for you, but for me it always just feels very out of the blue, unwarranted like discussion that just happens no matter what I say.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's definitely. Yeah. No, I got you. Continue.
well, I mean that was kind of it. It's just it comes out of nowhere it's whenever I'm part of the conversation.
I think the only time I really see it as an issue, or like a couple instances, I guess, is when you know the person well enough to know that they are just doing it for attention or whatever, for whatever means you know them well enough that's true.
Yeah.
Or if they speak in a way that seems like they were going to say that, like you said, regardless of what you were saying. It's like when you're talking to somebody, and I accidentally do this all the time. But it's like when you're talking to somebody and they say their sentence before you finish yours completely, and it's obviously, how do I explain it? They were planning on saying their point against whatever you were saying, regardless of what you said. And it's, what is it? Oh, it's listening to talk, not talking to listen.
Yeah.
And so it's just waiting for the person to stop talking so you can start talking again and
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about yourself.
Definitely.
And so
And like I'm friends.
That's the struggle
with-
everyone has, though.
Yeah,
I will
like
say.
I have friends that are exactly like that, where not necessarily what they say is more important, but it's just that like when we're talking, they end up dominating the conversation, even if I also have a lot to say about the topic.
Mm-hmm.
And it could even be something that I know more on, but they want to talk about it, which is fine. I'll let them talk about it because I'm kind of. It's really funny, but when you were talking about earlier about like making characters for other people,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have that. I would say, where it's not so much I've made like a whole like facade, but I go from how I usually, which I don't even know what that is sometimes, but like I'll go from what I normally am to like someone who's just kind of quiet and dumb, and so I can let them like talk about whatever and let them feel smart. Like they'll be like, I wonder why bees like take honey, and I'm like, oh, well they do it to do all these things, but I know they'll
Right.
just be like, no, that can't be it for whatever reason, but
Right. Yeah.
it's just kind of something I've like just been like, yeah, all right, they won't believe me when I say this, or oh, that's just something that's gonna happen when this happens. I know how people will react to certain things, and so I'll adjust myself to better fit how their personality fits.
Yeah, no, I totally gotcha. And I want to continue this conversation, but we're gonna have to do it in the next episode.
Oh, all right. We'll continue again in the next episode.
episode.
Again. We're really good at this.
Goodbye.